Good morning. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. Happy Monday. Great to see you. Let's see who's here. Thank you. Thank you, Google or Facebook or computer, for another update. Sometimes I look at my computer and I say, thank you, Google. You haven't given me an update for 24 hours. Might as well shut everything down, seize everything, lock every password, and give me another update that I can't use and don't know what it's for. Happy Monday, everybody. Good to see you. I hope it was a great weekend. The day after Halloween, right? Did you have some little visitors last night? It was the first day I can remember, at least in the lifetime of my kids and being in the U.S. where we would be trick-or-treating, that maybe years ago when we weren't in the U.S. yet, but it was the first time I could remember having Halloween on a weekend. And it was so exciting to be able to kind of ease into the evening, and gave me the opportunity during the day to take them out to a beautiful historic town in Connecticut called Wethersfield. And they have this ongoing event through the month called Scarecrows on Main, and just tons of scarecrows that represent local businesses and groups like Scouts and the Nail Salon and the Grange and all kinds of different organizations. It was so cute. There were dozens of scarecrows out. If you're friends with me on Facebook personally, you'll see I accidentally posted about 75 pictures. I didn't realize there was that much material, but I guess there was. They were all so pretty. And then the kids went out trick-or-treating as soon as it was a little bit dark. And it was fun. It wasn't as much of a blowout as it typically is, and I guess that maybe is a sign of the times. But it was a great time, and I managed to trip and fall into a very deep hole. It was soaked up to my knees, like on the first street. So I was a walking misery, which I guess is kind of befitting of Halloween. But Joss had endless energy with her other little witch friends in their big, long, extravagant sort of Phantom of the Opera costumes, fancy. And my little Ted was so tired right from the beginning. He walks a few blocks, and after the Scarecrows on Main, he was pretty pooped. So we were out for about an hour. It was a fun night. I hope you had a fun night. I hope you had the flavor of Halloween, that kind of old-time flavor. I felt like it wasn't exactly right. It wasn't exactly full color, Technicolor, but it was great. And the scary part is, now that it's over, you know that we are on the landslide to the new year. You know we are at the top of the roller coaster. I don't mean to scare you, but we're about to go like this right into Thanksgiving and right into the holidays and the new year. And that is scary, isn't it? It's a little bit scary. But didn't we have a great episode on Friday night? I really, really enjoyed looking at the book Hooking on the Hill by Nancy Butts Thompson. One of the girls that's in that group wrote me over the weekend to say that Nancy had passed away in the meantime, because that book was written quite a while ago, which definitely answered the question why I couldn't kind of find her and be in touch. But it really made me want to go to Athens, Georgia, because they are still meeting in that little log cabin on the hill, and that group is still together. And I would love to go there and do like a week of coffee time episodes and speak to different people, see what everybody's working on these days. It seems like a fun thing. And then I thought, is this a group project for us, just going down there and hitting fried green tomatoes also and doing some road trips? Is this possibly a group trip? You have to let me know. Send me a message if you think it might be, because I'm really feeling it in a powerful way, going down to Georgia and visiting that whole group of hookers. Kirsten, good morning. Good to see you. I owe you messages. My phone is also broken, which is really fun. The screen, which has been cracked forever, I saw my Halloween theme up, is locks and jumps. So it's been calling people who I would never, ever call. Just emergency people, you know. So I haven't been that responsive lately when I'm not on the computer. It's something I need to correct immediately. Crystal, hello from sunny Nova Scotia, still feeling soggy from last. Oh, you had a rainy trick-or-treat. Oh, I'm sorry. That is a bummer, isn't it? A drowned rat. You more of a drowned rat than a Dalmatian. Oh, no. Was little Vera a Dalmatian last night? I saw a great costume, a grown-up in our neighborhood. She didn't seem to be with any kids. She was just dressed up and going for it, not door to door, but just walking around. And she had that sort of Cruella de Vil, half black, half white wig on. It was perfect. She had a lot of makeup. She had like a faux, obviously, Dalmatian coat. and she only had one dog, and it was a rather small dog, but it looked like she had homemade a black and white spotted kind of coat for the dog. So she was like Cruella de Vil walking the one dog that was dressed as a kind of fake Dalmatian. It was a super cute costume. Super cute. Sue's hello in cloudy, cold Kansas. There's the first turkey of the season. I don't mean you. I mean the emoji of the turkey. Great to see you. Exciting, isn't it? Headed toward Thanksgiving now, American Thanksgiving. Our Canadian friends just had their Thanksgiving. We are on the roller coaster. Beverly, great to see you. Another windy, rainy day in the Pacific Northwest. I know, right? We are getting mixed weather reports here. Robin, happy coffee time from Wisconsin. Joy, I got your beautiful chair rug. I forgot to bring it in. It broke my heart as I turned into the parking lot because I knew that I forgot that package. Joy sent a beautiful Van Gogh chair rug, Van Gogh challenge. It is gorgeous. So I will bring that tomorrow if that's okay. It's absolutely gorgeous and blingy, and it fits really well with our subject today, which is the new book that just came out with Rug Hooking Magazine put out called The Art of Hooked Rug Landscapes by Molly Colegrove. So we're going to look at that in just a minute, but it really reminded me of the feel of this book. Huge success and absolutely stellar. Penny, good to see you. Happy coffee time. I've missed you too. It's bright and sunny in North Myrtle Beach today. That's great. Becky, good to see you. Good morning in Indiana, taking a break. You're doing your things. Your daughter is getting married. Congratulations on Saturday. And you're crazy, I'm sure. I'm sure that can't be avoided, but it's an exciting time. What a great time of year to get married, isn't it? Oh, that is so perfect. I wish you the best of luck, and I know that you will not get sort of mired in the craziness, and you'll rise above and stay calm and focused and enjoy, right? That's the main thing, is to enjoy these moments, as crazy and busy as it can become. Tara, great to see you. I love what you just sent me. Cindy, great to see you. Happy coffee time. Chrissy, happy coffee time. Great to see you. Happy wedding. There's some chatting going on. Catherine, you are on time. Great to see you. Donna, great to see you. Sunny Alberta, that is great. Already got some half off Halloween things. Did you, Catherine? You already got half off some of the Halloween things. It's the time to do it, right? I was also looking at Facebook Marketplace today because I thought, well, maybe next year we have to populate the entire front yard with like these blow molds, of like Halloween characters. And I noticed a whole bunch of them popped up on Facebook Marketplace this morning. I guess people who were thinking the opposite, thinking, I think this is the last year our entire front lawn needs to be populated with blow molds. Those are the people I need to pounce on immediately and start that collection going. Dave, good to see you. I missed you on Friday night with your coffee. Too much candy. Oh, well. Join the club. I literally just called Jazzercise. That's why my phone is here. To say, when can I come? How grueling can it be? And how fast can you melt all of this weight that I've put on? Like 40 pounds. How fast can you melt it? But nobody was there. So I'm trying to not take that as a sign and just like move forward with eating in my normal routine. I'm going to actually call them again, I think. April, good to see you. And Courtney, great to see you. Good morning. Road trip to Georgia, April. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. And then I'm thinking, what buddies would like to come too? Because it's a completely different part of the country. And I know there's a lot of buddies there. So, yeah, I that's been the theme of my weekend, was thinking about that, because I haven't been to Georgia for so many places I need to go and am headed this year. But that really got me going, that hooking on the hill on Friday night. Carol, great to see you. Yes to road trip, depending on when it is. Always thinking sooner rather than later. When I put things off too long, it's not like suspenseful and sort of Carly Simon style anticipation. It's like impatience. I have the opposite. I need to create a song called what's her anticipation, like anti-anticipation or something. I get so bored when I'm waiting too long for something. But let's evolve a plan, and I'll put the word out in our Facebook group, which is Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club, because it would be great. It's almost like Brigadoon, right? That episode was almost like Brigadoon, this little log cabin on a hill, this really friendly, warm group of hookers who are active, who are busy, who are talented. It's like this magical place to most of us that don't have that kind of a dynamic going on, group of hookers that you can be close to and be inspired by and share with. Most people don't have that. So knowing there is a place where that exists, and it is such a hornet's nest of busyness and productivity and color and inspiration, it makes me really long to get there. And I bet a lot of people are feeling the same way after that episode, because it's amazing to think that indeed does exist, because it's very rare, and you're very lucky if you're a part of that. Nada, great to see you in the San Francisco Bay Area. Deirdre, oh, hi there. Beautiful sunny day in Prince Edward Island. Great to see you. Welcome. Another place, another must-go place. Now remember, the North American Rug Hooking Museum, right, the Museum of Rug Hooking, in Nova Scotia is having the exhibit of, help me out, come on, Hetty Van Gerp's rugs, right, from Tancook Island. Boy, I just pulled that out. Starting in May. So that's another date sort of to put on the calendar. If you're thinking about going, I'm thinking about going in May because I don't want to miss the opening of that important and beautiful exhibit. Hetty Van Gerp, remember that episode too, Hooked on Tancook. That'll be fun. Catherine, you'd love to go to Athens. I think we can get something going here. I could use some jazzercise. Dave, they do it online too. I need to be there in person because I have no discipline at all. Good morning, everybody. And was I ever happy to receive this rug in the mail? Not yesterday, Saturday it came. I was so happy. Molly Colegrove, The Art of Hooked Rug Landscapes. And I have to say, getting into landscapes for me has been surprising, because last week we looked at this beautiful book by Anne-Marie Littenberg, right? An older book, also put out by Rug Hooking Magazine, the press. Absolutely beautiful and surprising how many interesting sort of compositions fall under the category of landscape, because I had always previously thought of a landscape as a very cut and dry, a sort of thing from learning art in college, right? Just very limited, narrow kind of a scope. But looking at the Littenberg book and now looking at Molly's book has been a complete game changer, right? Because now I have completely put to rest that idea that it's limited at all tackling a landscape. And also the idea that in doing a landscape, somehow you are required or expected to work along the lines of a very sort of traditional, almost photorealist approach. And that, for me, is my sort of least favorite genre of rug hooking. So having seen so many examples in Anne-Marie's book and now in Molly's book, particularly Molly's own compositions, has really moved me and changed everything. So this book is another amazing game changer. This book is tremendous. Just came out 2021. If you are in the Rug Hooking Magazine book club, you probably just received it as well. But this is a real game changer. And I have only scratched the surface of this book. We'll certainly be looking at it for a couple of days. I've only scratched the surface. But this morning I want to share with you some of the ideas that Molly puts forward, because she's such an open thinker. She's such a free thinker and worker. I love her approach. I love her personality. I love her work. I love her style. So I want to show you just the beginning of the book for today, looking at some of these sort of overarching ideas that she puts into place in the very early pages of the book that are going to set the tone for the rest of the book, I'm sure, even though I haven't finished it. And these images are just over the top. The first thing I want to say is she is such a tremendous multimedia textile artist. So even, for example, looking at this one image that we will look at more, you can see that it's a hooked image, but you can see there's also quilt fabric or cotton in the background. And it's pieced together. It has a quilt quality, right? And there's like some embroidery going on here with the birds on the wire, right? So this, and of course the very filigree tree branches. So we're going to be looking at images in this book that are Molly's work that are very mixed media. And for that reason, so inspiring, because we keep saying here on this program, I keep saying, and I hope that you feel the same way, I think it's so important for this craft, for rug hooking, to open up a little bit. It's like a crack, right? It's like a fissure in the earth. It's going to crack open. It's going to be painful when it starts, but our craft, I think, needs to be a bit broader, right, before it's completely lost, because we are squarely in the realm of historical crafts where we are, and we're not even recognized on Google as existing. But I think the more we look at and talk about doing pieces that are more sort of along the lines of intentional wall art than rugs, and of course we'll always do both, of course we will, but if we look at things that are meant to be wall art, then we can, before we even pick up the hook, start thinking about different materials, different techniques, a different approach, and doing things with multimedia within one project that will give you so much more opportunity, freedom, range. It's just limitless, right? It becomes absolutely limitless. So for me, this is what this book started out being about. And again, I'm only a few pages in, but I'm so in love because these images of Molly's are, you know, they have an element of realism, of course, because we recognize this clearly as a landscape, but you can see she's done a lot of picking and choosing. And if this were a painting, it would be much more in the style of an impressionist painting than, for example, a tonalist painting. There's a lot of abstraction involved. There's a lot of color choices. There are palette tweaks. There's a lot going on that's not just what the eye sees. This is a bigger picture of the one that's on the cover. Make sure that's in focus. It has such a glow to it. There we go. It's just glowing. And you know, she's going to tell us as we go through the pages of the book, I'm going to do a lot of paraphrasing because this is a brand new book and I don't want to spoil it. I don't want it to be like lots of spoiler alerts going up. But I want to tell you enough about the main ideas in the book that you will want this book, because this will be, whether you intend to ever do a landscape or not, this will be so important to have in your library as an inspiration book. And in terms of her teaching and her voice in this book, it is a good, solid voice. It is not a voice that's going to tell you that there's one way to do something. It's a voice that's going to tell you to do it your way and to find 100 more ways, and to work with absolute freedom, right? Free range hookers. Let's not put that on a shirt. That would be so strange. So in the introduction, she already sets the tone for the kind of work that she does in her personality, which I immediately loved. This is not this is how you do it, baby book. This is I do it this way, but I also do it this way, and then there's lots more ways, and every time I work in a different way with new ideas, try new techniques, challenge myself, and the sort of follow-through thought is, and you should too, right? There is no right way. So when I see that written down in black and white, I know that I'm going to like this book. So she starts by talking about getting into rug hooking, and how first she talks about how much she loved books as a child and loved the library, loved selecting books, thought of books as old friends, and how her wish and her intention for this book is that it's an old friend to you, a friend that you will pick up time and again to reference, to look at, to be inspired by, and to enjoy. And I thought that is a very nice sentiment to start the book off on. And then she talks a little bit about herself, which I always like to know a little bit about the person personally, because you're reading what they wrote and it's in their voice, and you would like to, your heart would like to, besides your brain listening to their voice, your heart would like to form some kind of a bridge and feel closer to that person. So you like to find some things out about them. And she talks about how she always loved art as well as books, and she always wanted to go toward the School for American Craftsmen, which is now the School for American Crafts at Rochester Institute of Technology, which is near her hometown in Rochester, New York. I think she's in New York City now, and pursue a career as an artist. But as so often happens, the parents didn't think that was maybe the most sage decision at that point. things being different, right? This happened to me too when I was going to college. My dad was not a huge fan of me going for theater design and construction of costumes. Could not see many uses for that. And this happens to a lot of people. So she shifted gears a little bit, made a compromise, and went into packaging design. And that didn't work for her. So 2 semesters in, she enrolled in a much smaller school, a local school in studio art. And she said that didn't turn out to be hugely useful either. But her favorite class was taught by a local folk artist called Daryl Abraham. And she said we learned all sorts of folk crafts, from scrimshaw to decoy carving. We even drew from live animal subjects, including a goose and a pig. And she said the class sparked my interest in historical crafts, and I decided to study them on my own. I tried most of them out for size to see if they would fit. I painted theorems. I cut sharench. I always struggle with this. Sharen, I don't want to say a bad word. Schnitta, right, which is the German paper cutting. Almost said a bad word. Sewed penny rugs, embroidered samplers, quilted and beaded on fabric. And then she says I tried rug hooking, and I realized I had a good fit. I think a lot of us have taken a similar journey and have felt the same way at the end, that at least with rug hooking, you know you've got a good foundation, you can build off of it. But I'll tell you, this is the first book that's going to really show you all the directions you can build off of rug hooking successfully. I really feel that this is the first one that sort of breaks the mold and crosses over into other crafts in a practical and doable way for everybody, not just people who are already skilled at quilting and other crafts, for anybody. So she goes on to talk about how after she graduated and was married, she wanted to create the cozy home, right? That's when you start feeling like you want to nest and make things permanent. And this is the 1980s, and she said hooked rugs were starting to be displayed on walls, right? If you can remember this time, the country was very in, and there were lots of very corny things that went with that whole movement in the 80s. But most of them I really liked, corny though they were. But one of them was that hooked rugs appeared, and a lot of needlepoint appeared. Bargello was kind of fading out, and different forms of needlepoint were coming in. And I had the same moment in time when I was attracted to everything. But that was a great sort of platform for hooked rugs to start making an appearance on walls again. So she was interested in that, and she looked around for a teacher. And she said she found one. She was able to find one, but she only taught fine hooking. And there was a 9-month wait to join her class, proper gestation period, right? So she decides to teach herself again. So she started with a small rug that was an image of a house, and then she hooked a second rug, which was a flying pig that she made up as she went along. Now, this technique of doing it as you go along, I cannot oversell this technique, even if you are not an artist. What a great exercise for yourself to just start working on a rug, just put the Sharpie down at the side of the rug. When you have an inspiration or something strikes you, you add to it, and just work as you go. See what evolves. You don't have to be an artist at all to work in this style. That's your kind of drawing class. Oh, Krista with the pig and the goose. Oh, I hated drawing. I don't know if anybody got a lot of nude models when they were in school back in the years, but that was always so awful, awkward. There are some incidents that I was going to say arose from that, no pun intended, that, I would not want to repeat those days. How awkward for a younger person. Goose and pigs all the way, right? That didn't sound right either, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. We're going down a terrible rabbit hole. So she wants to take a class with this woman, but there's such a long wait that she just goes off in a different direction, teaches herself again, and starts to sort of evolve her own style immediately, doing this sort of work as you go, figure it out as you go approach. And again, I recommend this highly as an exercise to anybody of any level. I promise you, you will be surprised by the result. So she says, shortly after finishing my second rug, I signed up for a rug hooking class at our local museum. I arrived the day of the class. Get ready for heartbreak and anger. Get ready. I arrived the day of the class with my rug all drawn up and ready to go. It was an image of our daughter in folk art style, holding a basket of strawberries. I even had it color planned, and I was so excited to be in the actual class. Well, I only made it through the first day. The teacher was not impressed with my design. If I chose to hook a dress in the color green, she said, she wouldn't be able to help me. Green was not a color she could produce using her natural dyes. and she only used colors that she could herself obtain. So that's super helpful, right? You're limited to the teacher's color palette, what the teacher is capable of producing. That's a hell of a constraint, isn't it? I mean, that's face punching time. Not really, obviously, not advocating violence, but that is a super wind up at the very least. So did not go well. And she said, at that point, my natural obstinate nature took over, and I decided again that I would teach myself without a lot of rules. So you're already in love with Molly at this point, right? Because she is a character who, through this whole story, keeps coming to this weird crossroads where, all signposts spinning around crazy, putting you off the scent, and she still keeps going toward the thing that she wants and not letting all these weird, aggravating speed bumps trip her up too much, right? Because it is so easy with everything in life when you get to that weird crossroad, like calling jazzercise and having them not pick up, to just say forget it and back it up. The important thing is to just keep going, right? It doesn't matter what you choose. Making a choice is the thing, isn't it? Oh, Linda, good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks. This is such a great book, Linda. It can't miss. This is all Molly Colegrove, The Art of Hooked Rug Landscapes, and it is over the top. So she's off on her own again, trying to figure it out. Teachers have been well, the folk art teacher was wonderful, but otherwise teachers have been fairly useless up to this point. And it seems like the only time she's encountering teachers, they're the kind of teachers that are going to give her a lot of technical help, but that's it. And you know how often we talk about people we're all kinds of people. Everybody on this thread right now is a different kind of a person. I say this all the time, but it's important. I feel in my life, in terms of the way that I work, I'm probably 95 to 98% creative, and just a couple dots of technical skill are in me. Interest in learning things technically, not there. Whether it's the phone or it's crafts or anything, not there. So other people will have the feeling that they are 95% technical, more paint by number kind of approach, right? They want to be shown what to do. They want to be given all the pieces, even beyond the beginner stages. And decades in, they still like a project that is a technical challenge and not a creative challenge. And neither one is right, right? They're both right. Whatever part you enjoy more, that's the part that you should go toward, right? You should always go to a project, if you are more of a technical person, that brings you closer to realism or shading or something that's technically quite advanced and difficult. Whereas if you are a creative person, you should steer toward projects that give you full creative range, right? Limitless creative range. But you cannot be 100% a creative person and 100% a technical person, because you only have the 100%. You're split up, no matter who you are. And it's good to find out sooner rather than later and come to peace with the way that you are, whether you work very technically or very creatively. Molly's very creative. So she found along her rug hooking journey that waiting around for people who are very technical teachers to show her their way of how to do it was not a good use of time. And she went right in the direction of figuring it out herself, because she's more of a creative person than a technical person. We all have a blend. We're not zero of anything, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't do a craft that involves so much of a sort of robotic, repeated motion, pulling loops, pulling more loops, right? So there's part of all of us that is quite technical, but it's just that balance, right? It's just that balance. And luckily, that's something that can change and something that we can choose the levels of, like on a stereo, from one project to the next. So say next project I do, I really want to challenge myself and do something more technical. That project I do. If I don't enjoy it as much as my normal work, my normal course of choices and pattern designs, then the time after that I'll do something that's a bit more wild, right? But luckily we can choose from project to project. You never have to commit to one style your whole life. The main thing is, and I always say this too, if you are you're ever near a teacher who's telling you that there's one way to do something, it's definitely time to find another teacher, no matter what, right? So here she goes. She says it right here in a nutshell. I believe that too many rules can crush your creativity. So I'm not setting out rules in this book. I hope that you will read it with an open mind and spirit and let your creativity flow. I often muse on how I became so interested in old-time arts and crafts. I do too. My dad was a history buff, and every vacation that I can remember as a child centered around a historical destination. Molly, me too. That is so uncanny. We went to Williamsburg, Virginia many times and watched the demonstrators make candles and spin wool. Another frequent destination was Sturbridge Village in Massachusetts, absolutely. And this is probably the era that Pearl McGowan stuff was in the gift shop, right? So I wanted to be able to do all the crafts that I was watching. I did too. It's so interesting watching people do these old-timey things. It's so sort of homegrown, possible, right? I'm not talking about keyboards and computers and chords. Stuff that you can do with your hands is so tempting to us, I think. We visited battlefields and toured forts and tall ships. We went to Salem to see the haunts of the witches. Through all of it, I like that you put witches in parentheses, quotation marks there. All of these things were imprinted on my brain as a young child, and for that, I thank my parents forever. They sparked my imagination and sent me on a lifelong creative journey. So much of my childhood was centered on creative thought, and for that, I will be forever grateful. What a beautiful introduction, right? What a beautiful introduction. I'm going to run over a little bit, and then we'll shift gears. So that was just the introduction, and she's sort of launching you into the pages of this book with this feeling of carte blanche, right? Get out of jail free card. You do whatever you want. She's going to tell you what her process is, how she gets her stuff going, right? How she sort of composes, synthesizes, sets herself up for a new piece. But she's saying, you do it your way. Here's the way I do it, open book, literally, and you do it your way. So she starts chapter 1 by saying, set the stage. And she says, you're smitten with her, Crystal. So true. Carol says, a great lesson in persistence. Absolutely. Absolutely. So chapter 1, set the stage. She says, create a library of ideas. This is such a good one. And this is such a forgotten one. I think in the shuffle of things and using the computer so much these days, we forget about, for example, putting a scrapbook together, which is something she shows here. A little bit of foreshadowing in that picture that's going to come up tomorrow. But she's showing you, you can find these beautiful, old, blank books, scrapbooks, even at thrift stores, and it was so fun. I don't know if you ever did it as a younger person, but I mean, I remember having a sticker book for my scratch and sniff stickers, a different sticker book for my puffy stickers, a different sticker book, a different scrapbook, obviously of photos for different years, and one of things I clipped out of magazines, boys I liked from the football team that I cut and I put them in there, a form of early stalking before the computer. I had tons of scrapbooks, and over the years I got away from that as I got more and more reliant, I think, on the computer. I got away from the act of cutting stuff out of magazines and really synthesizing it, because most of magazines is just crapola advertising anyway. So, I used to do this years ago and I forgot about it. And it's good to be reminded. So when you see things you like or things that spark something, it is fun to just take those things, collect them in a physical form, and put them into something that you can look at for inspiration later. Now, this is going to be for people who are looking to do two different things: create original compositions, but also bling out a design that they already have in mind, or commercial design. There's no reason why you can't use Molly's techniques if you're holding a commercial pattern. Think about Hooking on the Hill on Friday night. Those very sort of traditional patterns. Wait till you see how Molly blings out elements to even the most traditional compositions. So you can go through the motions of creating your library. I like how she's creating a library of ideas. I always say memory museum for myself, but we have the same exact idea. Collecting things that are important to you, that visually stimulate you creatively, and putting them in one physical place that you can look at, bedside table. You flip through when you're really there, right? So she talks about great ideas like this, and then she talks about selecting your subject and your composition. So if you, for example, are not doing a commercial pattern, or if you are, but you see ways that you would like to build on it, do stuff in the background, change it up, switch out the lines with a black marker, Sharpie. She talks about how you can do that and that whole process for her. And she shows you beautiful images like this. I wonder if Molly's on. I wonder if she did this like paper cut. That's a nice folk art paper cut, knowing she did so many different things. I like to see vignettes in other people's homes. It's just, see, this is putting me to shame. There are buckets that say like greens, yellow, blues, and even the yarn winder is still inside the box. that really puts me to, I'm not even going to turn the camera and show you this abomination, because somebody would be calling the hoarders crew. And then she shows this. Now, I wonder if this is the barn. I wonder if this is, remember she said the first thing she did was a little barn. I wonder if this is it, because I can't imagine it would be, because this is so over the top evolved in terms of style. But this piece is called Tiny Red Barn, 9 inches by 6 inches, hand dyed in random cut wool. Very small sketch mat designed and hooked by Molly. Let me show this to you, because it is anything but ordinary. Bring into focus first. Now she will say a little bit later in this book, so I'm going to repeat myself tomorrow, she will say when she cuts that she used to have a bliss cutter, right? All these expensive cutters that you can buy, which are very nice if you like having your strips very even. And if you are a highly technical person, less creative, more enjoy the technical part of it than the creative part, then you probably do want a cutter and you want to use it every time. But Molly says, I have a cutter, but I prefer to use scissors because I like it when the pieces come out uneven. And I have to agree. The pieces that I'm working on now for my project, I'm just sitting on the couch with scissors. Rarely do I pull out an actual cutter. Because I also feel the same way. Sometimes I rotary cut. That's a nice quick way to kind of do something in the middle. But I like finding next to me a pile of strips. Some of them are wide, some of them are tapered, right? Because sometimes you need the skinny bits, and some of them are quite thin. I like having that range so that I can pull as I go, because for me, not being a technical hooker, it's much less important for me to have that uniformity of loops, right? It's very cool. It's very cool when I see it done. I appreciate it. I love it. I admire it. But for myself, I need that instant, constant satisfaction, right, of having variety. If I don't have variety, being such a sort of fast-paced person myself, when I don't have that constant variety and change, I lose interest. So even having strips, never mind colors, even having strips in different sizes is important to me. And if you, I'm just going to say, because I say this in teaching classes too, if you find that you have cut a ton of wide strips, you've ripped them or you've cut big primitive 8s or 9s, you can always, with some of them, when you work yourself into a spot where you wish you didn't have such a wide strip, you just take out your scissors and cut your strips in half. There's no reason, even in a pre-made kit, that you are stuck with the supplies that you were given. If you have strips that are not working for you in the areas that you want, little dit-dot places, you should just take out your scissors and cut them in half. Right? You should do exactly what you want with your materials because it's your piece. But I like the way that she is a great advocate of variety. I'm going to stop after this page. She says, when making sketches for a rug, I play around with the composition. And this really ties into Anne-Marie Littenberg's book too. This is good advice. Molly says, I plant trees where none existed, or I add a pond or anything else I want in my little world. Entire books have been written on composition. And it is something that can take a lifetime to study, but I think for me it boils down to this. When I look at my design, it just feels right to me. Now that's so important, because remember when we were talking about the Anne-Marie Littenberg's book on landscapes last week, she was saying how important it is when you choose a landscape to pull out the elements that you really want to hook. Because if you hook everything, it's number one going to be quite a job, and number two, it's going to be very literal, right? And you don't necessarily need all the elements in there. It's important. One of the sort of baselines of looking at composition or studying composition is balance, right? And emphasis. You want some things to be emphasized and other things to not, right? And if everything is in there, just potpourri, you're not going to get great emphasis on the things that you mean to put in there, because you put so much stuff in there. So Molly's even taking that a step further and saying, I look at what I want to do, framing it out in my head, and I'm saying to myself, well, there isn't a tree there, but I'd like it if there were, so I'm putting one in. Do you remember Molly Dye's rugs that we were looking at last week in the landscape book? And we were particularly looking at one of Provincetown, because I know Provincetown so well, and I realized what church she was hooking, and I realized she'd hooked a bunch of things in front of it that weren't there. Same idea, isn't it? She wanted to get the little sort of Cape Cod-y, weather-beaten white cottages in there in front of the church, and they're really not there. That's a commercial street and a very busy front, and it has a green in front of it. But she put those things in, and I think that is fantastic, and why not, right? That's exactly what Molly's saying. Sometimes I leave in elements that could be removed. Again, taking this thought a step further. This is like continuing on where the last book left off, right? That could have been removed. For example, I may leave in a power line to add a nice diagonal element to the rug. I especially like these lines if I can add rows of birds to them. Special, like little personal motif that reoccurs, right? I especially like. I also will add trees or flowers just to fill in this space that that need a small amount of color. So filling in empty spots composition-wise with things that aren't there just to complete the composition and balance the composition. How to decide whether a design element should be removed or left in? It depends on the cut you like to hook with. I like to hook with a wider cut or even with random widths. I cut by hand with scissors, so I often hook smaller elements with yarn. I can hook finer details that way. So she's saying, you know, because she likes such a wide cut, right? A wide cut has a real personality, doesn't it? And it's so folky to use a wider cut. But she's saying, but sometimes I find technically I need something small, and then she'll go to yarn. Because you know when you pull up even a thick piece of yarn, it's just a little knit dot, isn't it? And you really get that fine detail with it. Becky says, in your introduction. Oh, Becky, that is so great. You know, Becky's saying that us looking at books together and doing kind of a survey of each book, getting into different people's styles, is one of the reasons that she came into this. Oh, you are so welcome. You know, good thing that so many people are writing these amazing books in their own voices, and I feel like books are getting better and better and better. We have moved away from that, this is how you do it, baby, and we are now in a place where each book has a very different personality, very different advice, and when we look at them all together, we really have all of these tips and tricks in our bag of tricks, right? Of hooking tricks. This book is exceptionally good for this. But you know, I love how she said that she leaves in things that she doesn't have to leave in, like power lines, and that's smart. So, for example, look at this on the cover. Now she shaped out some of this stuff. She's abstracted some of this stuff, like possibly a cloud or just a break in color. And she will later tell us in tomorrow's episode how she does this with Photoshop, which is super smart. But you can see she has left in the power line. And it's very cool when you identify something specific, like a power line lined with birds, as being, it becomes your thing, doesn't it? If you do it often enough, it becomes your thing. And what a fantastic thing. But I absolutely agree. This is a very heavy, bottom-heavy composition, a beautiful, varied, lighter roof that kind of feeds into the sky, right, with the breaking up of colors, right, the blocking of colors. But she's got a beautiful lacy tree on this side, and it does help to have this kind of laciness on this side. This reminds me of that kind of ladder yarn, right? Isn't it called ladder yarn? It's like probably acrylic, and it's like two lacy strips with like little ladders in between, little rungs. This reminds me of ladder yarn. It's very filigree, very fine. And in terms of balance, right, which is another important part of composition, she's got a very, very heavy center, but she's got a very lacy side, and it really helps to have a lacy side over there too, doesn't it? I mean, it just helps. So in that regard, where you would normally think, yes, automatically remove the trash cans and power lines, not necessarily, because that soft diagonal of laciness is really helping that composition. So it gives you something else to think about. But don't let it be overwhelming, all these tips. Don't let it be overwhelming. You start with a few things and you add. And as you add, you know when you hit tilt, because your eye is different than mine, you'll hit tilt in a different place. I tend to overdo. Other people tend to work in a much more minimal manner, right? Minimalists, people who go toward more simplicity and cleaner lines. Like Crystal is very good on clean lines and patterning. I'm not that good at that stuff. I go way overboard into like Pig's Breakfast, Curiosity Shop, and then I lose emphasis and balance. Something to work on, right? We all work on stuff, but don't be overwhelmed with all these rules. They're just things to think about. And I think it should be more liberating to think that when you do break a rule, right? A rule. We don't even want to use that word. When you do break from the expected, sometimes it's a gift and often a plus, like leaving power lines in, right? Who would ever think that you would get something written in a book that said, might be good to leave the power line in? Well, it was super good to leave it in. It made perfect sense to leave it in. And she says, I can drive myself crazy trying to include everything. I can absolutely identify with that. Absolutely. You can see a close-up of the power line here. You can see she's put her sort of batik. I think she hand dyes this cotton. So this is quilting material. She's got it in the background on the sides of the loops. And I'm guessing that she attaches it to whatever her backing is, linen, mux cloth, I'm not sure yet. And then it looks like she's machine stitched the sort of swirlies, right, the quilted part in a multicolored or variegated thread that you can get at the craft store. And then it looks like she might have embroidered these blackbirds. They have a very sketchbook quality, don't they? Absolutely beautiful. So you see how she is layering techniques. I think we should pick up again tomorrow, because now she's going to talk about actually applying principles of design, principles of composition. And although we talk about this a lot, it can never be enough, right? Because it gets hammered in, and for me too, repetition is the way to learn. So tomorrow let's pick up. We're only on page 6. Isn't that pathetic? I mean, there's so many good ideas in this book. I don't want to glaze over. Absolutely stunning work, Kirsten. It is. So I'm just, I'm trying to make a decision, seat of the pants kind of flying right now, because the kids are off today and tomorrow, and I really want to take them to the movies to see the Addams Family tomorrow with some of their buddies. But you know what? Why don't we run, I think the matinee, I'm just thinking about pricing because I'm treating a whole bunch of kids tomorrow. Yeah, let's run coffee time at noon. We'll run coffee time tomorrow. I was going to try to switch it out later in the week, but I'm excited about this book and I want to keep our momentum. So we'll do coffee time tomorrow. We're going to pick up with Molly Colegrove's book, The Art of Hooked Rug Landscapes, put out by Rug Hooking, right? You can buy this on the Rug Hooking website in their bookstore. And remember, they always have for us the Ribbon Candy Hooking discount for people who are watching the show. RCH, right, Ribbon Candy Hooking, 15% off everything, including the newest books. So I will be back with you tomorrow, noon, same time, and we'll pick up where we left off, talking more about the technical things that Molly does to make her work as successful as it is, right, to make things look as good and right as they do. We'll talk about her take on composition. And like everything up to this point, she takes some things and she leaves some things out. She keeps some rules and she lets others go. And that's part of balance, isn't it? Not just the technical balance of the composition and the lines in the composition, but that's part of the balance of a human being who's creative, putting something together. You hold on to some bits and pieces and you have to let go of the others, right? Because there's too many, right? There's too many rules. So we'll talk about tomorrow the things that she keeps in place when she's approaching design and the things that she just lets go. So it's going to be interesting. So have a great afternoon, everybody. I will see you tomorrow. Don't forget, keep forgetting to advertise my own stuff here with this broken phone. Let's see if it even lets me open the thing. So don't forget, coming up for us, Prati class on Wednesday night, right? The Pilgrim Hat Prati. I'll be teaching that on Wednesday night. And then I am teaching Prati in person in Madison, Connecticut this coming weekend at Madison Wool, Mad Wool. I will be there in person on Sunday, and then Sunday night is our class, second class, doing Prati together. So that is coming up. The following weekend, the following Sunday, November 14th, our class on designing, right, working on composition, designing tavern signs for rug hooking. So if that sounds interesting to you, I will be sending, over the course of the week, I'll be sending out a file with lots of original drawings that I did that you can absolutely use and have and keep and work into your tavern sign compositions as we play games during that class. Both of those things are coming up. Oh, thanks, Nada. Oh, Karen, that's all right. You will rerun the fun, right? I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great afternoon. We will return to Molly tomorrow at noon.